I would like to focus on Buddhist perspectives and first of all, looking at the broad definition of Buddhism. Is the Buddhism a philosophy or a religion? So some people believe that Buddhism is a philosophy because Buddhism helps to guide people to develop moral and ethical values. And the others believe that Buddhism is a religion because Buddhism has an origin and there is a master and there are a set of guidelines. But I think in my view that the Buddhism is both. Buddhism has no boundaries. And when my friend Robin said about pluralism, that I drive on Winstead Street, and I've been here for 30 years now, so I see one church was converted into a Buddhist temple, and I see another one was converted into a mosque. But the way I see is it's not the failure of one religion and the gain or success of another religion. It's the pluralism. Because now the religion has people the young age, as you are in the audience, has accepted religion not within boundaries but with broad definition. So it's not a secularism that in all religions that preached to people. And the internet has taken over many aspects that the churches of Campbell had done. So you don't need to go a Sunday or a specific time to a church or a temple to listen, because you have so much information that you can gain from the internet. So that is the reason. It is not the failure of one religion and the success of another religion. It's the pluralism that the young age has adopted. So I would like to tell you a little bit about the history of Buddhism and then how it migrated to the Western world and to North America. Buddhism started in India. In fact, it is 2,603 years ago. It's 580 years before Christ. And when Buddha was born, that the people who were there called, they practiced a religion called Jainism. So it's, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, so, they observed or they worshipped nature. So now I can see over the years that the evolution of the religion, now people are going back to finding new definitions of Buddhism and going back to that. So in 300 years after Buddha was born, that one king Asoka, that he decided to spread the religion into the eastern part of Asia. So he sent his two children, but that was confined to Asia because those days that they did not have transportation like and only the boats were traveling from back and forth. So from there, the Buddhism migrated to other countries that from the colonialism. So the British and French, that when they were ruling this part of India and Sri Lanka, that some of them brought the religion into the West. So there was one Sri Lankan devotee called Dharmapala, that he fought against residential schooling. The same thing which happened to Aboriginal people in Canada, the same thing was happening in Sri Lanka for Buddhists. So the British had similar thing doing to Buddhist children and taking them into Catholic schools and forcing them to change their religion. So what Dharmapala did was that he fought against religious freedom. And then Colonel Olcott, that he was a colonel in the British Army, but he was a modest religious belief set, that he adopted some of the Buddhism and he brought that into the Europe. And from there onwards, that the Buddhism was spread into the other parts of the world. In Canada, that Buddhism was brought to Canada, as far as I understand, that by Chinese people that who migrated to Canada. So it's mostly that was the start. So adaptation of Buddhism in each country differs. That in Southeast Asia, people believe one sector called Theravada. Thera means Sangha in Pali, or Thera means that Buddhist teachers, Buddhist priest. Vada means theory. So Theravada means that the theory which is coming from the Buddhist priest. So that's one sector. And there is another one which is very popular, is called Mahayana. Mahayana Buddhism it's called Mahayana called big vehicle. So they believe that you need a big vehicle to go from where you want to. And there is another one, Tibetan and Mongolia, they follow the Vajrayana tradition. So that they use meditation as a prominent component of their worship. So that has become a very prominent religious practice in Canada, and especially in Atlantic Canada. So there are sectors, but since then in 18th century, that the Buddhists have come together to do a unification of Buddhism. So in 1997, so World Sangha Council of Southern California, that they tried to have a Buddhist Congress, and at present there is an International Buddhist Confederation. So they continue to have conferences and seminars that they invite Buddhists from different sectors to find common grounds of worship. I have some statistics to show you that Canadians that who believe that they are the Buddhists, in 2011 census, that they asked the question about religion. So 366,000 people said that they are Buddhist. So it's only 1.1% of the Canadian population. So we are talking about a very small segment of the population. So in Atlantic Canada, there are several Buddhist practice groups. One is the Atlantic Chan Buddhist Association, and in my view that each one of these focuses on one aspect of Buddhism. So that Buddhist temple is mostly that for Chinese-speaking people. So they do chanting in Chinese. They conduct most of their ceremonies and rituals in Chinese. And there is another one called Gurdjieff Society of Atlantic Canada. And it's for people from all faiths, Buddhist, Christian, and Muslims. And but they have incorporated Buddhist meditation techniques. So, and in fact, that Buddhist meditation technique, I won't call it Buddhist anymore, because that people from different faiths now use that as a healing practice. So it's being used, and very recent research that I'm sure that you must have heard about it, that they have used meditation or concentration for prisoners in the United States, and they found a difference between the ones that do this and those who don't do this. So it's like a practice of healing. So it's not tied to any religion. So there are people called meetup group, and it's all over Canada. And they call themselves as the practitioners of New Buddhism. So they also call it Western transformation of traditional Buddhism. And they are the seekers of enlightenment. The word enlightenment is used in Buddhism as coming to a realization, understanding the suffering, understanding the world from the beginning to the end. So they use that as New Buddhism. And of course you all know the Shambhala Buddhism, that it is the most prominent Buddhist center in North America. It's widely spread.
Swarna, about 2 minutes.
Okay, I will be very quick. So in addition to that, there are home-based community-run Buddhist programs, and most of them are tied to their ethnic associations. So within this 2-minute period that I would like to tell you what changes had happened in Atlantic Canada. So the Buddhism has certain rituals which came from Hinduism or other religions. So the Buddhists still practice, like at birth, that if a child is born, that it's a Buddhist tradition that child is kept for 3 months at home because of the low immunity, but the first visit is to a temple, and you get the prayers and chanting and get a string around your wrist for the protection. So that is still happening here, and the marriage rituals. In fact, this is a big change. In fact, the Buddhist priests, now they have got marriage license, because this was not in the original Buddhism in the East, but it is happening in here that the priest can sign the marriage, so that they have changed their practice. And in the death rituals that Buddhists are usually cremated, so there are a few funeral homes that you can do cremation, and then they pass merits. So I would like to tell you what kind of institutional changes that has happened in the region since my arrival to Halifax there. And because of the adaptation of multiculturalism, in courts, I remember that the first time I went to court as a witness, and they gave me the Bible and said to swear on the Bible, and I told them that I can do that, but I am a Buddhist. This doesn't mean anything. It's not with any disrespect, but I haven't read the Bible, so I don't know what I am swearing upon. So she said the clerk was very adaptive, and she said that you don't have to do it. And she didn't force me to do it. And my husband went through a citizenship ceremony a couple of years ago, and in fact in the note that they said that bring your own religious text. So we took one, and there were people who were bringing Quran. So it's now a big change. So these are the institutional changes that had happened. And also that I had done some research in this area, and hospital use of religions, because now we insisted that in Kibiutu you have to ask them what religion, because when my son was very sick in the hospital, they sent a priest, and he was telling us about some kind of God and all, and you are parents in very much distress that this is not what you want to hear. So I made that into my research and found out that you have to respect every religion, which we do. So now they ask you what religion, and now they ask you at the end of life, as well as when you have someone in critical condition, they ask you, do you want to bring someone from your own faith? So these are the big changes that has happened. And also the hospitals earlier, they had only chapels. Now they have changed it into prayer rooms. And now they have not only the Bible, now they have Quran, and they have other religious texts. So these are some of the institutional changes. I will end this with a quote, and I have to respect this before that. There are some Atlantic scholars and academics who have done lots of work and who had influenced these changes that I talked to you. Some of them are Bruce Matthews, Dr. Bruce Matthews from Acadia University, and Dr. Alex Susie had written books and a lot of what they call knowledge translation. So Bruce Matthews, in his book, Buddhism in Canada, there is a chapter on Atlantic Canada. He quotes, that's a quote from Elder Shaw, my main connection with Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche is the mind connection of his enormous power and generosity, and ability to open his mind so wide and articulate so elegantly that anybody who wanted to tune into his mind could do so. So I feasted on him. I quenched my thirst and satisfied my hunger, and feasted on his wisdom and his brilliance and his beauty and his craziness and his flair and his outrageousness most of all. And there is no mention of Buddha. So there is no boundaries. You are not tied to this religion. And I really want to tell you something about the tweet from Joshua Wright. And he was seeking a place when he was in distress. And he said, I remember when I went to one temple and they had a pamphlet that gave you the price of each stage of enlightenment course. So there is a price attached. If you want to reach this stage you have to pay this much of money. I thought how strange it was to have to pay for a stage of enlightenment. This is not only happening in Canada, it's happening in Sri Lanka too. So I also thought it was contrary to the very idea of enlightenment, but forgave them for the fact that a business needs to make money.
Swarna, we really need to wrap up, if you could, please.
Okay, my last sentence, he says, I would have kept it up, but later on, I found out that my faith was elsewhere. See, the religion is for you to join, get what you want, and to leave. It's not, you are not bound to sell. Thank you. In fact, what happened was, I'll tell you the story that they said in the letter, bring your own text. And so we brought Dhammapada, because in Buddhist religion culture, we don't have one swearing on. But this is the one that which is sort of has most Buddhist guidelines. So we took Dhammapada, the biggest one that we had. But in fact, they didn't use the text at all, so we didn't have to use it.
I just had this idea in my mind of multiple carts wheeling.
That's a medium edge. Yeah.
Ceremony was conducted by one professor at Dalhousie University in law school. He had Order of Canada, so he decided not to use the text.
Thank you.
In terms of Buddhism, with my limited knowledge, I couldn't find anything that the Buddhism says that only Buddhist can reach enlightenment. Anybody, like who, so if some of my kids had asked me this question, well, who are the Buddhists? So according to Buddhism, that there are 5 principles that you have to follow every day. If you want to follow Buddhist principles, and that you call a Buddhist, that is, the first one is not harming any humans or animals, not killing, and not stealing, and not getting engaged in sexual misconduct, and not telling lies. And the last one is intoxicated drinks and substances use. Those are the 5 principles. So anybody who follows those 5 principles are called Buddhists. So I will tell you an example. Our biggest celebration was last weekend, on May 10th, which we celebrate Buddha's birth and enlightenment and passing away. All 3 happened on the full moon day in the month of May. So we had some sort of following Buddhist principles and guidance, and had a Buddhist priest coming from the United States to guide us. So we invited Muslims and Catholics and Christians, we invited everybody. It was an open invitation. So people came for lunch, and they enjoyed lunch, and they stayed for some of those talks. So it is very open. You can, anytime you can come in and follow the principles and get whatever the teachings, whatever you can get from it, but you can also have your own faith outside.